Good evening. Today is Tuesday, July 10th, 2018. This is the start of the Hanson Board of Selectmen meeting. This meeting is being taped by Whitman Hanson Community Access. Let's please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Good evening, Hanson. Here are this week's announcement. The Recreation Commission is sponsoring a blood drive at Camp Kiwanee Lodge on August 22nd from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. There will be a rabies clinic on Friday, July 13th, where from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the town green. There will be microchipping for only $25, nail trimmings for $10. You can get your rabies certificate done, and then as well as Seresto collars for $62.50. There'll be a petting zoo, ice cream trucks, and pet vendors. Please bring a can of dog food or cat food to donate to the pet pantry.
And Matt, can I just mention one thing? Dog registrations are due, so this is very timely, and I really applaud the animal control officer for doing it because you have to present a rabies certificate, so it's very timely.
Then the volunteers are needed for the following committees: the 200th anniversary, Capital Improvement, Community Preservation Commission, Disabilities, Economic Development, Elderly Affairs, Energy, Final Plymouth County Hospital Committee, Finance, Highway, Building Committee, Memorial Day Patriot Observance, Memorial Field Trustees, Recreation Commission, School Repair, and Zoning Board of Appeals, and a Zoning Board of Appeals alternate. Applications for appointment and information on the committees is available on the town's website. The Selectmen Workshop will be on July 17th at 7 p.m. And then the next two Selectmen meetings will be on Tuesday, July 24th, and Tuesday, August 14th, both at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
I also want to mention that as far as the rabies clinic goes, that the town clerk, her office will be open for those hours as well, so you can also go over and register your dog.
It's awesome.
Actually, technically, Town Hall closes at noon. She's going to come back and open up for the duration of that event, so that whoever comes and gets their rabies shots or anything else can then simply walk over and register their animal. So it really would be extremely convenient for the residents of Hanson.
Good.
Those that need
Excellent.
that, everything's taken care of.
That's awesome.
Okay, so new business, open the town meeting warrant. So I'm looking for a motion to open up the
I
warrant.
move that we open the town meeting warrant for the October special town meeting.
Special, yep.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? All in favor? 5-0, Mike.
I will mention that for, at least for town hall departments, that all articles are due on the 24th of August, and we will ask the Board of Selectmen to officially vote to close the warrant on the 28th of August, just to get that information out there.
Okay. So next on the new business, we have adopt the TIF guidelines. So I think you guys all have, we have no iPads tonight either, so we're going back to old school paper. So I think you guys, no, nothing is wrong with that. We have a tax increment finance TIF guidelines. That looks like this, if you guys have it in front of you.
Yep.
Mike, you want to just brief us on this?
Sure. We've talked about, over the course of the last several meetings, the fact that we want to start getting going on economic development, especially with an eye towards Main Street and the opportunities down there. So there are several things that I'm going to ask the Board of Selectmen to do tonight, none of which are very complicated, but they are necessary so that we can line ourselves up for, and we will get to this as well, for a potential tax increment financing proposal at the October town meeting. So the first of which is we need to create guidelines or a policy in terms of how the town will go through the process of entertaining a potential TIF. So You have that in front of you. It's pretty straightforward. Like with most things that I do, it's an amalgamation of what other towns have done to include some experience that I've had in the past. Fortunately, in speaking with the people in the state who are involved in these sorts of things, it's actually gotten a little easier since I last did one several years ago. So the first step is to, if you have any questions on this, on these guidelines, on this policy, certainly ask them. But it's necessary for us to put something like this in place so that we have a set of guidelines that the TIF committee, which you will be creating in the next few minutes, has something by which to go, so.
So I had a question.
Sure.
So I'm totally in favor of this. I'm all over revitalizing Main Street. But I've got a question as far as the criteria for the applicants who might receive this favorable financing. Is that something that the TIF committee will create? Because
Yes.
one of the things I want to make sure is that it's somebody that we've done due diligence, that they've got good financials, that if they're in Hanson, that they've paid their taxes, that they don't have building code violations already. In other words, I don't want to be rewarding people who basically haven't been good business partners or, or partners at all in town. I want to
Corporate
make sure that we're
citizens.
doing due diligence.
That will all be part of the process,
Okay.
yes.
Okay,
Very much so. And actually, the state will demand that as well.
okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? So, Mike, so you're looking for a motion to adopt the TIF policies?
Yep.
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any more questions? Okay, all in favor? 5-0. Okay, so that's the
This is
first
extremely exciting.
step.
I like this stuff, too.
I'm being 100% honest with you.
Trust me, I
I'm
like this stuff,
extremely
too.
excited about this. This is the first step of what we need to do in order to get things cracking there.
So that's one of the first steps towards getting this done. Next, we have declare an economic opportunity area. So you guys have in front of you, you see the assessors cards? So that area along Main Street is gonna be our economic opportunity area. And Mike provided us with
Yep.
the assessors cards of the properties that would be in that area.
Mike, can you just verbally describe to us where it is? Because people that are watching
sure.
will not know what we're.
Sure, it's basically it's basically the old Cranberry Spray Building. That's the easiest way to explain it. It's that block. It extends to the other side of the railroad tracks, which is also technically part of that property. It is not an exclusive list. So in other words, if we feel, as we go through the process, as we get more comfortable with the process, that we want to add more properties on, we can. This is just a start. It's one of the most identifiable potential locations for economic development. And what this does, again, is it greases the tracks in terms of going before the state to get their approval for any TIFs that we may, on a local level, approve. But it also allows other sorts of opportunities for grants. If we were to go down the path of seeking a DIF, which is a district improvement financing program, the fact that we have this in place, again, it'll put us one step ahead of where we need to be. In addition, by declaring this particular location as an economic opportunity area, it automatically rolls in the benefits to whomever may redevelop a property there that has been abandoned or underutilized. So as opposed to having to name that separately, which was another option, we kill two birds with one stone in that respect as well. And when we get to it, which actually is next, the potential TIF that we will be looking at, the committee will be looking at, the Board of Selectmen, and then eventually the town meeting will be looking at. that particular location is an abandoned, underutilized building. So by making this declaration, if everything moves forward, the property owner, the potential redeveloper of that property, will receive a credit from the state because that project will be putting that particular building back into use and back on, well, it's on the tax rolls already, but enhancing the tax rolls for the town, so a lot of good things.
How does this motion, do we need to read the specific property?
No.
Okay, so can we say as
Yeah,
designated?
I'm looking for a motion to declare the
Okay.
economic opportunity area.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more questions?
Mr. Chairman, I had a question. It says on the application here that it was previously approved as a target area. In the past, have we done anything like this?
No. The town of Hanson has not entertained anything like this before. The town of Hanson, about long before I got here, some people may remember that there was a builder who had proposed a project on the grounds of the old Plymouth County Hospital. At the time, the way that was described, it was described as a TIF. It wasn't. It was something akin to a TIF. However, it was something unique that the town of Hanson went through a procedure locally and must have gotten state approval, because I went through one of these that wasn't technically a TIF. So the process is fairly similar, but it's not the same, because a state-approved TIF, by definition, does not benefit residential property, and that was a residential project.
Now, if we want to add properties to this, what is the process?
Simply
Because
voting.
there's a particular property, like say 3 doors down that I'm thinking.
Yeah, and I know which one you're thinking
Yeah,
of.
what would, how?
We would just go back and amend it.
Just at a Board of Selectmen meeting? Okay, great.
Well, at a Board of Selectmen meeting, and then we would forward the proper, forms to the
Right.
state. So.
Okay, and do we have an ability to negotiate some other benefit to the town? For instance, I know Matt and I participated in the Plymouth County Hospital thing, and we've talked a little bit about like a boardwalk to Burridge or something down there. Is there an ability to say with like a little greenway, with like a little quid pro quo?
I haven't
kind of
seen
a-
that done. I'm not going to say you can't,
Okay,
but I'm not going to say you can.
okay.
I can certainly look into it. All the ones in which I was involved, they were in a industrial park, so there really it was what it
Yeah,
was. And
yeah.
I know what you're talking about, and we can explore that to see if that's something that can be discussed.
Okay.
But I can't. I'm not going to say yes or no at this point.
I mean,
but
I'll be thrilled with it getting cleaned up, but, if we could get the boardwalk in there, Matt, I think that would be awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so I think we have a motion and a second.
All right. All in favor? 5-0. Okay, next, we have the EDIP letter of intent for 1101 Main Street. So this is the Economic Development Incentive Program. This is the application. So the board's gonna have to, we have to vote. It says Mike and I have to sign this application in order to send it in.
So can you queue up what it is that we'll look, because
That-
this is the first we've seen
he's-
this.
What Kenny is asking you for at this point is a vote to sign the declaration of the economic opportunity area. We're not looking for any action on this
Okay, so we already took,
whatsoever.
the action we needed to take.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't, this is just for information at this point.
Okay,
The
all right.
very last page, Laura.
Yeah,
is-
gotcha.
That
Yep.
kind of sums it up right there in that paragraph.
All right, so you just need a vote for us to sign this.
Yes, a vote to authorize me and
to
Mike
sign it.
McHugh to
Yep.
sign it.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? 5-0. Okay, I am gonna take, just because it all kind of refers to it, under appointments and resignations, the TIF committee. Part of this whole process is the TIF committee has to be created. So the committee that's gonna consist of town planner.
Well, my recommendation, Mr. Chairman, and it's pretty similar to what I've discussed in the past, is that there is a representative from the Board of Assessors, there's a representative from the planning board.
Yep.
There's a representative from the FinCom. There's a representative of this board, and then myself. And I have gone through already and reached out to those three boards to say that this was more than likely going to happen this evening, and to put it on their agendas to speak to their respective groups as to assigning somebody.
Assessors, FinCom, Board of Selectmen, what was the other one?
Planning.
Planning, okay.
I would really like to be the selectman representative for this.
And I'll be,
Because it's part of the economic development, like, I feel like they're connected, and I really would
Right.
like to be part of that.
and I'm not gonna fight you, Laura.
I'm ready to arm wrestle, anybody?
I'm not gonna fight you
Okay.
either, Laura, but,
So,
well,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I don't wanna see you spread too thin.
I'm
Yeah.
not. This
agree.
isn't going to
Get
be
the-
super duper numbers of meetings. This is like just like reviewing an applicant and then granting it. It's not gonna be like Board of Selectmen meetings or any of the other, and even the economic development meetings are, occasional. They're not, it's not like I don't know, like, say, the, Energy Committee would be one of those. It's,
But I'd like to see, but it's not going to happen. I mean, I'd like to see this be a very busy committee, but the only times this committee will meet is when we get a letter of intent. And, I don't see an awful lot of those happening. I'd like to, but as Laura said, probably after this one, the next one we'd probably be looking at will be in that same area when, the next phase of what I think they're going to do in the long term comes to fruition, so it might be another year. But
yeah, but I hear what you're saying, and I'm not afraid to say, if I think that I'm spread too thin, I will definitely communicate that, but that's not the case at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good concern. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to create a TIF committee.
So moved.
Second.
as suggested.
As suggested.
No.
And then Mike I did see that you sent out emails to everybody that we were just referring to.
Yep.
So then maybe the next meeting you can let us know, we can kind of form it, and then we can.
Well, you can
vote.
appoint, you can vote to appoint.
We
at
can
that
vote
point.
to start appointing people so we can get going.
And
Good.
did you get a feeling that we were gonna get take-up from FinCom?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, yeah, I
Good.
did. I
I'm
did.
excited
That'd be
about
great.
that. That's great.
All right, excellent. And I guess we're gonna do
Moved
just
and
vote.
seconded, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All in favor? 5-0. Okay.
And now, if the board is so inclined to appoint a member of this board to that committee.
Should we do that tonight?
Yeah, just to get
Okay.
it out of the way.
I nominate Laura Fitzgerald Kemet.
Second.
Thank you. And thank you for saying my whole name. I really appreciate that.
So the motion has been made and seconded to nominate Laura Fitzgerald Kemet to the new Economic Development
TIF.
TIF. Thank you. Losing my mind a little bit. All in favor? 5-0.
It's like alphabet soup, so.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, next, under new business, we have adopt a fuel-efficient vehicle policy.
Can Mike explain this? Because I know there was some questions and some current concerns.
The biggest question that I got, and this is why I pulled it off of the last meeting, because it was on the agenda for the last meeting, was from some department heads that were concerned about their ability to, not only to continue to use the vehicles they have right now, but to purchase similar vehicles going forward. And in particular, it was the emergency services, it was police and fire. So, we've had conversations both on the phone and in person with the principals from the state that are involved in all of this. And the vehicles that the police chief and the fire chief were concerned about are exempt. The real impact will come, and it will, if and when we reach the point where we wanted to hand a vehicle down, which has been the tradition here in town. If the police or fire have a vehicle that's still in halfway decent shape, and it just happened, within the last 6 months or so, we'll take it. However, in conversations with a number of different people, and also a number of different communities that have adopted this and since been put into the Green Communities Program, the benefits far outweigh the detriments in terms of expenses. Some towns, Bridgewater's already gotten $800,000 from different grants and different programs
Over what period of time, Mike?
over about 5 or 6 years.
Wow, that's impressive.
All these are about 5 or 6 years. Cohasset's got 300,000, Easton, 750,000, Hanover, $1 million, Kingston just short of $1 million. So, so what we would be looking at potentially, I would say it's probably not for another 3 or 4 years easily, because the vehicles that we have here at Town Hall are all relatively new, and obviously don't see the same sort of wear and tear, intense wear and tear that they did when they were being used over on the emergency services side. In 4 or 5 years, 6 years, when we potentially looking to replace these vehicles, I have a feeling that what we've gotten through the Green Communities Grant is going to far, far outweigh whatever the expense is in picking up a new vehicle here.
So we're not gonna have to go out and buy
No,
all
the
new
co-
hybrids for town hall?
No, everything stays in place. And that being said as well, unfortunately, right now, well, fortunately in a sense, because we don't need the vehicles, the state has run in the past grants in which they have covered 75% of the cost of purchasing a fuel-efficient vehicle or a hybrid. They've also, in the past, fully funded charging stations as well. So, and in my conversations with the gentleman from the state last week, he truly sees those grants coming back in the future. They're just not available right now. And I know that I went through that grant process in a previous community, so I actually brought it up, asking whether or not it was still there. So I'm familiar with that. It's something that I see them funding again in the next couple of years or so, probably just as maybe we're getting into a position where we need vehicles. And one of the things too about the hybrids is the fact that if the town were to buy one, with the exception of maybe, an out-of-town trip here and there for a conference or whatnot, they're just staying in town anyways. So it's not really like that we need anything with a lot of oomph. A fuel-efficient vehicle that can do 40 miles an hour without a lot of problems is probably too fast in some places in Hanson. So it all makes an awful lot of sense, and I did, as I said, I did want to listen to the police chief and the fire chief's concerns. They were legitimate concerns. I wanted to air out or figure out my concerns in terms of, foregoing the ability to take these vehicles and taking on the cost. But in all honesty, the type of money that we'll be lining ourselves up for far, far surpasses what we'll be giving up.
And you said it's a requirement to become a green community as well, right?
Yes, that's the whole reason we're doing this.
Right, okay.
There's one more step to becoming a green community. There's an overall energy assessment that's being conducted right now. It was part of the conversation we had last week. That whole assessment is being done at no cost to the town. National Grid picks that up as a result of, the laws and what they need to do in terms of getting their licenses. And obviously, the state works for us for free, and Old Colony has been involved as well. So all of this is being done at no expense to the town. But once we get that last item in place, potentially it would line up that we would probably be able to be declared a green community. I wrote it down here. Before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, wow, that
That'd be
happens
great.
pretty quickly.
Yeah, that would be great.
Well, fortunately for Hanson, and usually it's the other way around, the town of Hanson, a few years or so ago, adopted the stretch code, which is sometimes a very difficult thing to get passed, to get into a town. Again, going back to past adventures, it was one of the stumbling blocks I had in a community that I used to work in. But the fact that that's already been done, the rest of this stuff is kind of easy pickings. So it's just a matter of us finally sitting down and just knocking the rest of these things off, which is what we're doing right now. So.
Okay, good. So I'm looking for, excuse me, I'm looking for a motion to adopt a fuel-efficient vehicle policy.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Does anyone have any additional questions? All in favor? 5-0. Okay, thanks, Mike. It definitely makes sense. Okay, next under new business, we have Plymouth County Hospital and CPC. It looks like it's a Phase 2 application. Park planning Phase 2 at the former PCH site.
So,
Do we
Mike,
know what
this
they're trying to
is,
do?
they've obviously gotten the building torn down, they've had the planning sessions with Conway School, and now it's time to really drill down to the details and get, according to this application, to get something that people would bid on to actually construct said park. And CPC can cover that, and I assume these guys are looking for a letter of support that they can use in their official CPC application.
Well, they're looking for the Board of Selectmen and myself to actually be the sponsors. So that,
The sponsors?
yeah, so that we would actually present it to the CPC as the body looking for, you know, the funding. Since the Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee, because it's more of an ad hoc sort of committee that actually may actually not exist at some point in the not distant future, it seemed to make more sense, and they were very interested in the Board of Selectmen being the sponsors of this.
This keeps happening with this committee. I don't know why this keeps happening, but they keep coming back, and I understand what you're saying, that they're ad hoc, but they've been given a task, which is to figure out what's gonna happen at Plymouth County Hospital. And it's very odd to me that they're coming back and saying, well, we want the Board of Selectmen to be the one presenting it, because they're the ones really doing all the legwork. CPC does not require that at all. There's nothing in the regulations that requires that. In fact, I, as an individual citizen, could go and propose a CPC project. So I'm not sure if it's interpretation, if it's intention. I can't quite figure out what's going on, but I
So
really...
you were saying that they should
I
be the
really think it
applicant?
needs to be the Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee coming to us, asking us for a letter of support for them to put in their official application to CPC.
Well, you have more experience with these sorts of applications than I do.
Well, here's another thing, Laura. How
Yeah.
about this, where it says, I'm sorry, Mike, secondary applicant, final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee.
So they should just be primary and we could be secondary. That's the way, like, we're
You know, maybe
supporting
swap that
them
around.
making that decision. Like, we have not, here's where I'm coming from on it. I absolutely think they've done phenomenal work, so I want to go on the record of saying that. I'm thrilled with the fact that we even can have a discussion about what's going to happen up at Plymouth County Hospital, like, amazing. But that said, they're the ones who have been talking to Conway and all of these other guys. It's really bizarre for us to come in and make this application when we don't have the benefit of all of those conversations and meetings. I have no doubt they're doing due diligence and doing what they're supposed to be doing, but it's really odd for us to step in at this point and be the applicant.
Okay,
So, Mike, can we request that we be removed from there and the final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee goes in as the applicant? I
well,
don't think
why
that's a
don't-
big deal.
Why don't we do this? Why don't I suggest we do this? Because I'm fine with it either way. They're gonna meet tomorrow, so I want some resolution. Why don't we do this? Why don't we switch the places around?
I think that's good.
We'll put the Board of
Yeah.
Selectmen as the secondary,
Yep.
and we'll put the Plymouth County Reuse Committee as the primary. What I would also ask is the Board of Selectmen, and I can get it done for tomorrow, they approve me writing a letter of recommendation
Yes, I
of
was gonna
support,
Yeah.
but I would additionally vote to give them some comfort, actually probably all the boards involved, that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint me as the, how am I going to say it, the administrator, I guess, of this particular application, so that they've got somebody who's here, well, not 24/7, but, they've got someone that is a touchstone that they know is here all the time.
I mean, de
'Cause I
facto,
think that was de
aren't
facto
you?
being the
I
selectmen.
mean, but de facto you are, because you are the procurement officer. So all of this has to go through you, and you have to be the point person for who we end up getting to do this work anyway. I'm fine doing it if you feel like it will just give people like a comfort level.
I think that it will.
Yeah.
And obviously, I've been involved and had the negotiations and the discussions with who we're looking at using for this second phase. Again, to make sure the procurement is correct, but also to make sure that it was what we were looking for, or what the board, that committee was looking for. But I think in terms of giving that committee a little bit of a sense of security that the Board of Selectmen does expect me, and I would anyway,
Yeah.
but officially does expect me to shepherd this through administratively.
You're already listed as a primary applicant, so it's perfect.
Okay, so I move that we become a secondary applicant to this CPC application, that we authorize Mike to draft a letter of support for the project and to be the point person for them moving forward and working with us. Is that,
Perfect.
okay, great.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. The motion's been made and seconded. Any other questions? All in favor? 5-0.
Very good.
Thanks, Laura. That bailed me out. Okay, next on the new business. Accept and vote the donations. So, Parks and Field, we've had, the past couple of months, we've had some really serious problems with the irrigation. Most of it, the reason is because the irrigation systems are so old. Some of the sprinklers are 18, 15 years old. So the company that's been fixing the sprinkler heads, Frank Landscape, he's a authorized Hunter, sorry, Sari, I wasn't talking to you. He's an authorized installer for Hunter. So he was talking with Hunter Industry. Hunter is the one that makes the sprinkler systems.
They're huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Frank was able to get a donation of a box, a case of sprinkler heads to the tune of around $900 donated to Parks and Fields, stainless steel sprinkler heads. So that was nice. So Parks and Fields is just saying here, could you have the Board of Selectmen accept a donation from Ernie Dragas from Hunter Industries for a case of sprinkler heads for Parks and Fields. Frank's Landscape secured this for us while doing the sprinkler work at the fields.
Don't we need a
Thanks, Rob
dollar
O'Brien.
value attached to that, Mike?
No.
Okay, all right, so moved.
It's roughly just under $900 for the
Okay.
case.
I move that we accept the donation from Ernie Drugas from Hunter Industries for the case of sprinkler heads. And we thank Frank's Landscape for hooking us up with that.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Also, maybe we can send a letter to
Yes.
Ernie. I'll get the information and the correct address and stuff, just thanking him, because maybe he'll send us another box.
And Frank's Landscape.
Yeah, and Frank too. Yeah, good point, Laura. And I'll get you those addresses and stuff.
Okay.
Maybe any extra sprinkler heads for the softball field down at LZ?
Okay.
It always
It's actually,
seems to get left
it's
out.
actually, well, it's funny that you say that.
Really?
The sprinkler heads at the softball field are all perfect and up and running. They were repaired just the other day.
Okay.
First time ever.
And the stainless steel heads, these size, are different than the ones that are over there. It's a bigger head for the Bocherry, but I can assure you that the girls' softball field is all set. I think that's Hickey Way, I forget the street over there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
None.
5-0. Thank you. All right, next, we have appointments and resignations. We already got the TIF. Disabilities Committee, Nancy Jacob, 14B Meeting House Lane. I'm not sure what the term is to expire,
The
but
term should expire at the end of this fiscal year, June the 30th, 2019.
it looks like she's retired.
And does she meet the criteria, Mike? I was unable to tell from the application. I know that it needs to be the person themselves or a family member that has the disability, and I
little
I
tough
wasn't
for
You know,
sure.
that
I can see she's got a background in
Yeah.
that, yeah.
That I can't say, Laura, in all honesty. Why don't you make the appointment contingent upon
Okay.
being able, meeting one of the criteria, because there are different
Yeah,
criteria.
yeah.
And I do believe, although, again, I don't want to stake anything on it, I do believe there is a simple at-large position. But obviously, it's harder to fill the positions that have
I
some
mean, she's
sort of
got a great
requirement.
background. She's a handicapped companion. She's been in human resources. I mean, she's got a great background, and I'm thrilled to see a third person stepping
And
up.
all the stuff she does is
Yeah.
very difficult work.
So I move that we appoint Nancy Jacoby or Jacoby, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, contingent upon verification that she's meeting the criteria and/or could be appointed as an at-large member.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? All in favor? 5-0, Mike. Okay, thank
And we
you.
thank her for stepping up, that's great.
And Mike, you can just let us know when you
Yeah.
find out if she does meet. Okay, another appointment for the Highway Building Committee. We have a spot open, and is this the only application we got?
Yes.
Okay. So we have an application from Charlie Barons. Charlie is a lieutenant at the Hanson Fire Department. He's a paramedic. He does budgets, and he's also the public education officer, which I didn't know.
I move that we appoint Charlie Barons to the Highway Building Committee.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded by Mr. Dyer.
A term to expire.
Term to
and
expire
Fiscal year, June the 30th, 2019.
June 30
Of 2/19.
of 2019. All in favor?
Hopefully by then,
5-0.
there won't even be a committee anymore. We'll see.
I like that thinking. 5-0, Mike. Okay, under old business, we have, this is very exciting too, award the highway building design contract. So we only had, well, we had two people, I said at the last meeting, we had two people at the pre-bid meeting, but we only had one company actually submit the bid in for the request for proposal
Yeah.
for the design work. So, I know I was very happy that it was Weston and Sampson, because I've been dealing with them for 3+ years, and, they're just excellent, you know, so now we have to, Mike, we just have to, you want a motion to accept?
Yeah, allow me to sign it, yeah.
So the Highway Committee has already voted. You guys feel very confident and bullish about them.
Correct, we voted
Yep.
last Monday, we voted to accept, Weston and Sampson.
Okay, so you need I move that we allow Mike to enter into a contract with Weston Sampson on behalf
Exactly.
of the Highway
Yep.
Building Committee.
Motion's been made,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Dyer. And then we can get going. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I was only gonna ask because you said there were only two companies that,
Yeah, two companies came to the pre-bid meeting. Weston and Sampson was one, and then Merrill, which is a local company, Merrill Engineering.
Oh, yeah.
And then Mike said that he had Merrill had contacted him after and just said it was just too big, I think,
Well,
of a project, or he was.
They wouldn't have had, they couldn't find the right people to put in place in time. But I do want it, and I did want to mention this, and it's kind of following up on what Selectman Hickey, I think, is kind of getting at. I wanted to make sure, you know, the Board of Selectmen wanted to put this out to bid, out to RFP, which wasn't necessary in terms of procurement, but the Board of Selectmen, because of the amount of money, wanted to go through the process, which is totally acceptable. But I wanted to make sure that at least the public is aware, and you can see it in what I provided you, that I did reach out to, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, I think 13 different civil engineering firms, and provided them, you know, with the notice of the RFP. So it did get out there. It was fully vetted. It was fully, you know, promulgated. And we did get only one other sort of sniff of interest from CDM, but they didn't. They did not come to the meeting that the chairman mentions. We only had two organizations show up, Merrill and Weston and Sampson. And then Merrill did call me I think it was a day or so before the deadline, and said that as much as they wanted to put in a bid, that they were so busy that they couldn't get their principals lined up in time. They were off doing, you know, similar sort of projects. So we did only receive the one submittal from Weston and Sampson, and they presented a contract that is in line with the amount of money that was authorized at town meeting. So with I think the board, I'm not sure if the board voted, I wasn't, you may have made a motion.
No, yeah, we need
Yeah.
a motion.
But not,
Yeah, we-
but,
yeah.
so at this point, you know, they're the only ones that they put in, which is again, totally acceptable, and,
I mean, I feel comfortable. You reached out to all of these people, you went through the process. We were
Yep.
really doing it for the sake of transparency, and not because it was required, so I feel
Yep.
very comfortable moving forward with it. The highway guys, you know, committee feels really good about them, they've worked with them. I don't think there's anything more that could be done, really.
Right, I agree. Any more questions? All in favor? Okay, 5-0.
Excellent.
That's it for old business. So the town administrator's report. The first thing that's under there is the sale of the Plymouth County Hospital Superintendent's Home.
And I'll only have a few things really to go over in my report, but I think one of the most important is, well, actually, there's another one that's important too, but we did get the appraisal back. The appraisal was for $313,000. I am prepared to move forward on this next week. There's not a lot of heavy lifting to this. It is not a situation where we need to auction. It's actually a simple request for sealed bids. So I actually have pretty much already written the RFP for the bids that I will get into the proper newspaper and the proper state sites the beginning of next week. It will be, I don't see the reason to wait too much in terms of turnaround on this, so I would anticipate having or requiring the results before the end of August. The Board of Selectmen always retains a right of dismissing all bids if they're not comfortable with any of them. So let's say
like that
this has been appraised at $313,000, and the highest bid we get is $250,000. The board at that point, if it is so inclined, can dismiss all these bids, and we can go through the process again. So I look forward. I know the board. The previous boards have been trying to move on this particular piece of property. It was tied up for a while because of the septic plans, actually even prior to me getting here. We've taken care of all of that. We've cleared the way. We've gotten the appraisal, and we're ready not only to sell this piece of property and reap some money that I believe the notion is to put back into the project up there, but also put that piece of property back on the tax rolls. So it's win-win-win.
I have
Just
two
to
questions.
clarify, go ahead.
For first question, the Title V, it has a clean Title V septic?
Yep.
And the second question is the house livable? Does it need any work? It's like move in, or?
Oh, he lists all kinds of horrible
It
things.
really
Yeah.
needs an awful lot of work.
Okay.
Kitchen baths need to be
Photos were
replaced.
terrible,
Yeah, so it's gonna
Asbestos
be,
floor tiles, most of the hardwood floors, heating system has been vandalized and needs repair.
so it's gonna be
Yeah.
more of a contractor special,
There you
buys
go.
it, fixes
Yeah.
it up, and then sells it.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think one of the big selling points is the expansive septic design or septic allowance, which is basically for 6 bedrooms. So it's
Oh, wow.
it's an attractive piece of property for that
It
alone.
really sits beautifully on that piece of, and you can see that it must have been quite lovely in its day. So I think somebody with a little bit of cash in their pocket, good vision, could really make a go of it up there.
And the town has no financial liability moving forward with this.
Now, Mike, I just
I mean,
wanted
we
to-
hold liability right now in terms
Yes.
of exposure for, attractive nuisance and things like that. But in terms of, it was bought outright whenever the town, 20-some-odd years ago, bought the overall piece of property. It's been carved off in terms of its own separate parcel from the overall hospital property. We've retained an easement for potential development of a second water tower, which has been discussed, recently. No, everything is pretty much free and clear at this point.
Now, Mike, I just want to clarify, I know what you meant, but I just want to make sure, we're not able to earmark this money to
No.
be used up at Plymouth
Technically,
County
no.
Hospital. However, knowing that this is coming in might ease people's minds about requests for funding, in light of the fact this money would be coming.
Yes, and what we will do, and I've had discussions like this on other pieces of property, that the Board of Selectmen and the town have had such a desire to earmark, in a sense. I've had these discussions with the town accountant, and he's cognizant, and without putting money aside, we know where that money is, and, what we ended up earning last year, technically I think it was last year, we will create something at the October special town meeting and put an account together and put funds in that account. And what would happen, let's say we sold this tomorrow, it would be received under the connotation of unanticipated revenues, which we would have to carry all the way into our next fiscal year. in our next fiscal year, we put that down in terms of when we try to get the recaps and we go through the whole motions with the Department of Revenue and declaring free cash. This money would be declared free cash in the ensuing fiscal year, and once it's declared free cash, we can then go to the next town meeting, presumably in October, and allocate the funds there. So unfortunately, that's the way it works. There's a little bit of a delay in getting pieces of chunks of money where you'd like to get it, but, you know, we play with whatever rules we have to play with. But we're cognizant of all of this, so.
Again, this is awesome that we're able to move forward. Are you looking for a motion on this at all?
Yes,
No,
I was just gonna
actually, I don't. This is really just me bringing the
Right.
board up to date on something I know it's been interested in quite some time, so. The board already, either the board or actually even town meeting some time ago voted to sell this piece of property.
Yep.
And it'd be, you know, we don't need to reinvent the wheel on this. It's just me bringing you guys up to speed on something.
I'm sorry, Mike, timeline on this? I think they had said,
I'm gonna try to get it done by the end of August. I'm
Okay.
gonna put it, my intention is to put it in whatever publications I need to put it in next week and have the deadline so that, because sometimes there's a lapse in terms of getting things into goods and services. They only publish, I believe it's every other week on a Wednesday, so you can hit it right or you can just miss it and have to wait. So I think worst case scenario is I could probably have all of this sewn up by the end of next month. Let's see, what else do we have here? The board will find, or should find, at the very end of the set of trees that I killed, a draft of the Board of Selectmen's goals that were presented to me, not last meeting, but the meeting before, in which I've ascribed some sort of timelines and deadlines. I'd like the board to take a look at that, give me any feedback. I don't think this needs really a vote, but any amendments, if you think that timeline is too short or too long, you know, you can just get back to me. And again, this isn't something that needs a vote of the Board of Selectmen. However, you know, once everyone's comfortable with it, I would like to get it out there in public. So again, it's a draft. We're further working on this particular set of goals and projects. And as I said at one of the past meetings, I kind of like having dates described. Sometimes dates will move, but I like to, you know, be able to, when I set up my day or my week or my month, kind of have in the back of my mind priorities and deadlines. It just makes things work better.
I think it keeps us a little bit honest about
Yes.
sticking to a deadline. And as you said, we're making these things up, so we can certainly change the date.
Yes.
I like that there's more meat on the bones. There are a few of the goals that say more discussion is needed, and I'm wondering if at our next meeting, if we
Sure.
could come up with a date when we'll be discussing those.
We can discuss it at the next meeting.
Okay, great.
There were one or two things that I really need a little more clarity on, and I think one or two that may have been redundant, but we can have that discussion at the next meeting, once you guys look at it and kind of absorb it. Let's see, what else do we have here? Well, as it so happens, we got a notification, I believe it was yesterday afternoon, from the state that we're getting reimbursed some FEMA money from a past storm. That past storm happened to have occurred in 2013. I'm at a loss as to why it took this long, other than the fact that these monies from FEMA are all tied into federal allocations, federal disbursements. So I can only assume that somehow this got caught up in some sort of a spending bill that lingered because of something completely unrelated to this particular subject. Suffice to say that we'll take the money. The work's already been done.
How much is it, Mike?
It's just a shade under $25,000.
That's February 2013.
Yeah, it's $24,970.85. So I just want to let the board know. I was surprised, 'cause I had to look at it a couple of times because of the date, but I've already signed off on it, and it will be sent, because there's all sorts of contractual forms and whatnot and it comes with anything like this that we needed to sign. But it's all been done, so I want to let the board know that we just got $25,000 that we've been waiting on since, February 2013.
I'm sorry, excuse me. we have the actual check or no?
Oh, of course not.
No.
No, we have the contract.
Yeah, you have to fill out more forms
Yeah, we
before you
have to
get
fill
the
out
check,
more
right?
Checks in the
Then
mail.
they'll
And
give
then
us
we
a
get the check, yes.
Checks in the mail. Yeah.
No, it's not in the mail yet.
Nope.
No,
even
triplicate, duplicate forms.
So, a segue from that into my next item is, we have been notified, I believe it was last week or so, by the state, by MEMA, that the March 2nd and 3rd windstorm was declared by the federal government as a disaster. So the town of Hanson and, several different counties, it's basically done on a countywide basis, are eligible to put in for reimbursement for its expenses. I will be, as well as I believe the police chief is going to go as well. There will be a briefing at Bridgewater State College next Monday that I will attend. Basically, my experience has been, and I've been through at least half a dozen, if not more, of these, is every time they declare a disaster and there's financing available, they change the rules. And actually, even during the process, they change the rules. It's very frustrating. But we will go and we will get whatever the current guidance is from FEMA. And what we will do as well, and I've already spoken with the police and the fire chief about this, is we'll make a determination after that particular briefing whether or not it makes sense for us to go forward. I will say that I was involved with a disaster declaration back in another community. And at the end of the day, it made no sense for us to go after it because it was going to take more manpower. It was going to take more time than we were eligible for. Hopefully that won't be the case. However, I'm slightly suspicious because what you generally find in these sorts of events is the real reimbursement comes back for the money spent on snow removal. If you recall, there was no snow in the storm. It was just those horrible, horrible winds that brought trees down. So I'm not holding my breath in terms of how much money we may be eligible for, but we may. I mean, certainly we wouldn't go and explore it, but my suspicion is it could possibly not make sense for us to proceed on. But I'll bring that information back to the Board of Selectmen, and I'll give you my recommendation, as well as the police, fire, and highways recommendation. So there could be money there, there might not be. I wanted to mention, I want to make sure, and I actually really don't need to tell the Board of Selectmen this, but our fire department, as well as the area fire departments, responded magnificently at the fire event at JJ's on the 5th of July. We are going to send out letters of thanks. I know that the fire department already has, but from our office, I'm going to send out a letter of thanks to all the communities that participated, not only in extinguishing and dealing with the fire, but also filling in and covering other communities that have come to Hanson's aid. You've got, Whitman comes to Hanson's aid, and then Abington comes and covers Whitman's fire station. So that's the way it usually works. So there's an awful lot of other departments that assisted us that you didn't necessarily see at that fire. So we did have two of our firefighters injured. They weren't serious injuries. However, any injury is significant. It was basically heat exhaustion. So my understanding is both of those officers will be fine. But just a magnificent job under extremely trying circumstances, not only because of the location and the peculiarities of the particular building, but the horrible heat. So, from our office, and I think from this board, just thank you very much to the men and women of the fire department, not only the Hanson Fire Department, but the surrounding fire department. So.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal job. And then, 3 days later, they had to rescue a kayaker.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
was it just
Yeah.
seems to come in waves with them.
Yeah, that was another unfortunate circumstance. So it does. It never. It seems to come in spurts. When it rains, it pours, sort of thing.
With the fire, how did our dispatch handle it? As we're approaching regional dispatch, were there any
The
comments?
consideration of regional dispatch.
Yeah.
No, from what I understand, everyone, to include dispatch, responded magnificently.
Okay.
So I have heard no complaints. I've heard No hiccups, nothing that would lead me to believe that there was anything but an excellent job done by everyone involved in this, police, fire, dispatch, highway. The building inspector was out there almost immediately. He did order the building to come down, and it came down right after. It was safe enough to bring it down, and he is pursuing through the insurance company the removal of that so that we're not looking at it for the next year and a half. So everything is really in place. We're moving forward and trying to clean that up as well. Obviously, it's not something that we'll take the expense for, but we will push and we will, promptly get whatever orders are required to get that taken care of.
We're really, I know it seems like we probably take it for granted, but we are lucky with the teams we've got, with highway and police and fire, and, it's just like, these guys just step up and they do it, and they make it look easy, but, it isn't easy, and we're very fortunate. And all of the footage that I saw was just mind-boggling, really, so I'm glad nobody was permanently injured or, or really hurt,
So it was just an excellent job, well done.
Yeah.
And deserve it of as much exposure as possible. I will mention, I did get some information as early as yesterday afternoon that I should have some estimates for the demolition of McQuon. Again, that's not the final decision. It's just going through the process of making sure that we know all the options, what all the, the viability of the options, what they might cost. So, just another piece of information as the board goes forward in trying to determine the final disposition of that piece of property. And as I've mentioned before, we've got other irons in the fire in terms of the RFP that I put out and the conversations that actually Laura and I have had with Keller Williams in terms of what they might be able to do to look at reuse. So we're looking at absolutely everything. No decisions have been made whatsoever at this point. We continue to work with the property owners up at the corner of Liberty, County, and High Street in terms of the Complete Streets program. We had a conversation with the property owner and one of the tenants of the building where the police, where the pizza and the liquor store and the Chinese restaurant sit. So we're trying to work through any issues they may have. We obviously want to do this as cooperatively as possible. I think I may have mentioned we've had some very successful conversations with the owner of the Dunkin' Donuts. So hopefully we'll continue and have everything sewn up and everyone in agreement so that we can put that out and have that work done in the spring. The only other thing that I want to mention, and I do so with a bit of regret, is the gentleman that we were having conversations with to be the IT director between the towns of Hanson and East Bridgewater has accepted another offer. It was at the last minute. It is what it is. That being said, I had a conversation with the town manager in East Bridgewater actually yesterday. As I think I had said all along this process, that if this one individual didn't work out, we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. The whole concept still is a great concept. We are going to speak, probably he and I, George over in East Bridgewater, we're probably going to speak at the end of this week about how to move forward, which could simply be re-advertising and hopefully having some other candidates come forward. Again, it really, in a sense, is a no-brainer to share that sort of a person, because that sort of a person commands such a high, unless you're, Duxbury or Cambridge or, a more affluent community, it's really not a luxury. And it really shouldn't be termed a luxury, but it's really not a position that we can afford to finance on our own. So it's a great concept. As George was saying to me when we were speaking yesterday, all that changes is the timeline, the name of the person, and some, like I said, some of the dates and maybe some of the figures. So.
I mean, that's true. I mean, the good news is you kind of have the foundational,
Yep.
contracts and, how the
heavy lifting's done.
Yeah. You just need a candidate, you know? Yeah.
No, I agree. Stay the course with that, Mike.
Yep.
Yeah, it really is, it's a great concept, and it's a great idea, and again, as I've said in the past too, it lends itself to, possibilities in other areas going forward and shared services, so it fell apart at the last second, but we will go forward.
Is that all you have?
That's all I have, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Okay, we're going to table the minutes. They're not ready.
We have no liquor licenses?
Nope.
No,
but
This is like a historical day, I think.
I double checked
amazing.
it by the, before I
Committee
put the agenda out.
reports. 200th anniversary committee.
So we met, we're really starting to flesh out the next steps. I think Lee is working on
There is-
trying.
there is a
I think
letter.
there's a letter in the package asking if we could potentially use the front portion of what was formerly the Plymouth County Extension Building. Needs a bit of spiffing up, and I am being kind in saying that, but, and we've got a few other little concerns that we're gonna look into, but this is for a pop-up store for us to do some fundraising and sell various 200th anniversary related tchotchkes, such as T-shirts, mugs, and the like. I think you guys can all, envision the types of things that we would be selling. Heirloom type items that you will all be leaving to your, your grandchildren. And so we want to start that in September, which probably sounds unreasonably early, but when we kind of backed into the timeline of the fact that we actually need money in 2019 to do things in 2020, that's how we came up with the date. We've already talked about a lot of the events, but we're talking about like a 20s themed dance. Marcus is really into dances, so just be forewarned. A Civil War era type dance, and then a more modern type of dance. So whatever type of dancing appeals to you, there is no doubt that we will have an activity. We're talking about doing a old-fashioned kind of like parade and old-fashioned games type, picnic and field games and that type of thing, traditional thing. We're looking into having a carnival because you gave me the info for that.
Good.
And we're looking into a food truck and movie night over at Indian Head or McQuon, depending upon what's happening with McQuon in 2020. And that will be kind of a family-themed event. So, lots of different events. We also are looking at doing something to honor veterans in some way during that 2020. And we've had Mr. Bean and his wife come and talk to us about potentially integrating that into the Plymouth County Hospital project. So lots of different moving parts. I had suggested that perhaps we would have Lee or somebody come or Marcus, once we flesh this out a little bit more and talk about some of the activities, just so you guys can have an idea. But Mike, are we looking for a motion to allow us to use that?
I think it's permissible within your committee report.
Okay. We are looking for the selectmen to support us using the front part of that. What the food pantry is using the back portion, and so we're looking for the front portion. It's a nice sized room, and the historical society has got glass cases that they're going to donate to us for the use of showcasing some artifacts in that room, so that when people come in to buy things, they'll also have the benefit of looking at artifacts that probably haven't seen the light of day for many, many, many years. So it's all good, and in short, we're looking for support for use of that.
Good. Final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee.
Which, does that mean, are we
Right, yeah,
making
so
a
we're
motion?
looking for a motion. Are you ignoring my request
Oh,
for a motion?
yes, so, I'm sorry. So we're looking for a motion. Who's going to make the motion?
To use the front portion of that Plymouth County Extension building.
Second.
Well, I didn't make the motion. I'm just telling you what we're looking for.
And is that
So
a
it's-
motion, Mike?
Yeah,
Does
Laura,
that-
You can say it, just say so moved.
So
Okay.
moved.
There we go.
Second.
There you go.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
I probably could have made the motion.
Oh, you could have
but-
made the motion,
yeah.
but
5-0. Sorry,
Thank
Laura.
you, guys. I appreciate it, and Matt does too.
Yep.
It's a fun committee.
Yeah, you forgot to mention the Bear Festival at the MBTA station.
Somebody is obsessed with with pop-up beer festivals. We won't mention any names.
What? Wait a minute, what?
There was discussion of maybe doing some sort of event at the MBTA station where you could do like a beer festival,
Yeah.
food truck festival, sell our great tchotchkes,
Yes.
and then attract people from outside of Hanson.
Hop
from
on the
like-
train and go home.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Exactly. Grab
Shuttles
people
to
from
bring,
Plymouth,
get,
grab people from
yep.
Boston.
Maybe do that in October, and you can invite Samuel Adams, and maybe you can kind of tie that all in.
See, there we
Oh,
go.
keep talking, Mr. Mitchell, and we're gonna invite you to the 200th committee.
Final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee.
Sure. So as you guys saw, we're putting a pre-application into the CPA, and we're just trying to move forward. We're securing funding so we can do some engineering plans for, the first phase of construction up at the Plymouth County Hospital for a park. We finally got the final draft from the Conway School of their conceptual plan. And
Saw
big
that
emphasis
yesterday.
on the conceptual. It's nothing's written in stone right at the moment. It's
Right.
just, here are some ideas.
No, they did a great job. Even that meeting with those two kids, they were great. Anything else?
And that's about it.
All right, McCorn School Reuse Committee.
So, Mike kind of touched on it, we're still in the fact-gathering phase, so that we can have more effective meetings with the actual committee going forward. We had a great conversation with commercial real estate folks from Keller Williams. They were extremely excited about the potential uses of the property and had some great ideas, so we're taking that all under advisement. And then we're looking at demolition costs and, and the like. So, nothing tangible to present to you, but we're working on it. And as soon as we have something tangible, we will present it.
Excellent. Hanson School Repair Committee.
We have a meeting at the end of the month,
Okay.
just trying to get a room in a day.
And the Highway Building Committee, we met last Monday just briefly, just to vote on the engineering contract. And we're gonna meet again, we're gonna post a meeting for next Monday so we can get back to work. And that's it. Does anybody else have any business or any comments? I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. I want to thank everybody who came out today. We appreciate your support. Thank you, Carol. Motion's
Carol.
made. All in favor? 5-0, Mike. Good night.
Very good.